Wow, Colin, that was in really poor taste. Jeez.
Very funny.
Man. Oh.
I can't believe you've done this to me. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Myth Takes. Well, making Myth Takes. We're doing this one live because now we're pro gamers, we're pro Twitch streamers.
Pro.
Yeah, pro. So right
That's a
now
word for it.
is well, we'll just go around the room because right now it's just three of us. So I'm Colin Parker. I am the current keeper. I play a bunch of NPCs. I'm currently cosplaying dressed as Dr. Hank Mansfield. So you'll check out the nice, salt and pepper look that I got going on and everything in the lab coat. And then beneath me is Morgan.
I'm Morgan Spatola, and I play Allie, and I am cosplayed as Allie. And I can't talk because I have these fangs in, but we'll see how long they last.
Right. And then next to Morgan / Allie is Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm cosplaying as Buck in the winter arc where he had his winter cap and also a field jacket.
Oh, okay. That works.
Because I can't find a winter suit. Or like a suit.
And Graham will be joining us very shortly. Graham was getting back from seeing his mom on Mother's Day here. So happy Mother's Day to those of you who are mothers. I clearly am not. I'm a mad scientist, and anything that I would be mother to is something that we would probably take on in this show. So let's go ahead, and I think maybe we'll just sort of start off with some sort of easier, like kind of underhanded past questions. What arcs have y'all been in? And Morgan, you can also answer for the one where you were the keeper.
Hey.
And just sort of talk about what you were, what you did, stuff like that.
Well, I've only been in 2. Well, I guess 3 if you count the keeper, but I was in the introductory arc and or in my introductory arc with Sam and Whitney. It was called Homecoming. And then after that, I was the keeper for a spooky arc that I came up with that Alex was in. And then I'm in the current arc that we're doing right now, which is super fun.
Right. Yeah, that one's called Forest Fighters.
I can never remember the names of the arcs. I'm sorry.
Just had a new episode drop on that one.
These are coming out. Ugh. Okay.
That's fine. Hey, people.
That didn't last long at all.
It's fine. People saw the fangs. We got to appreciate the fangs, and now we get to appreciate the answers.
Yes.
So I think it all works. Thanks a lot for bringing them, though. What? Look, Alex. You make those sorts of jokes all the time.
Yeah, that's my bit, Colin.
Yeah.
My bit. Okay. So, what arcs have I been in? I was in a Halloween bit. I was in a Bunker Break. I was in No Strings Attached, and then I was in what else?
I'm suddenly blanking on the one that the first, your introductory arc though. What was that one called? It was Oh my God. Is it called Don't Move?
It was the one with the snow and the
Motionless in the Moonlight, right?
Motionless in the Moonlight. That was it.
Yeah.
Wendigo? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah. I kept wanting to call it Grace Falls, but I was like, no, that's this town that y'all went to.
Such a good name for a town.
Yeah.
Thank you. That one, that's a fictional city. So like a lot of the places that we've been to have been real. But considering I wanted to sort of really dictate how that town was laid out and like sometimes like it's easier when I'm doing something like the 4th arc, which was called Clause in Effect. And that one was based around Sykesville, Maryland, which is actually not that far from either Alex or myself. But like we were spending a lot of times in the woods next to Sykesville. And so you could kind of dictate whatever you want for like in woods that aren't really mapped out and stuff like that. And also like we could just change the name of one business on Main Street and it's not that big a deal. But like when I was like, I need all of this town to be very specific as to how I'm laying it out, had to make it up. And Grace Falls was like, I don't know how that necessarily came to me, but it just sort of one day, like while I was writing the Cold Open, which also isn't a cold open. I don't know why I call them those, but when I was writing the cold open, I just sort of tried a bunch of different town names in that place, and I said Grace Falls and was like, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that's what happens when you push over my co-host.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware, Alex is also on a show called Feels and Variation.
Okay, I don't know why that took me so long to understand, because
Right.
Grace wasn't on the network when you did that, and so I was like,
Right.
what are you talking about?
So Alex is
Sorry,
co-host for that
Grace.
show.
Sorry, Grace.
So that's very funny. If you push Grace falls.
That's why I liked setting my arc that I ran in Phoenix, because it's such a big city that like anything could exist there. Like it's so big out here, and like so, I don't know, like just massively urban sprawly or whatever, that like as long as I get the elements right, like anything could exist. Because I just ran that arc for my friends, and they were like, one of them was like, well, my character works at Sonic, and I was like, okay, sure, there's Sonic. And I was like, yeah, the Sonic is down the street from the neighborhood. Sure, it exists now. Why the fuck? That sounds reasonable. Like, it's a big city. Why not? Yeah. So,
I mean, it's funny because I was having this thought earlier today, because I was, of course, playing the Spider-Man game on PS4.
Of course.
And I was thinking about how like almost all of the city is kind of still laid out basically true to its real form. And they change a few buildings to have it be things that are made from their universe. But I was thinking about how many things like superheroes and random things are set in New York City specifically, because like that is a place that is so happening that like, in a way you kind of are like, what, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that live under the sewer and eat pizza? Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
But if I told you that happened in like, I don't know, someplace in the middle of Colorado that's just like a no person town, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, we would have heard about it.
Exactly.
Like,
but like New York City,
downtown Ellicott City.
Yeah. Everyone just sort of walks around there and is just like, kind of, don't get in my way, pal. Like straight up, you could be a supervillain or a crazy monster from Myth Takes walking through Times Square, and someone will go, hey, buddy, I was here first. You better walk away right now, And like the crypto would be like, I could end your life. And he's like, oh yes, so could I. All right, keep it moving, pal. Like that's sort of how New York City works. But yeah, no, I think it's also cool, I think, for us especially to write things in areas that we're also very familiar with. Writing for Kansas for the very first arc that we did was difficult and like weird.
Yeah.
I had to look at the town and try and figure out what that area was like, because I knew I've never been to Kansas. I've never like figured out anything for it. So I had to really take these things into consideration. But like Sam was like, nope, my character's from Kansas. That's where he goes to high school. That's where he does these things. I was like, all right. I mean, I'm not going to tell you no. You know what I mean? Like you have a strong connection with your character, I'm not going to say, you live in Virginia,
because I can drive there.
Right. Exactly. It's like, so I can double check to make sure where things are. No, but yeah. Okay. So that was our first arcs or arcs that people have been in. What is, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is such a vague question and like, it's so easy to say all of it, but like, what would you say are one or two of your favorite moments that have happened so far? And if you want to, you can give like one for a character that you play and one for something that you've, you know what I mean? Like if it's an arc that you weren't in, but we're like, oh, I really did love when so-and-so did blank, you can also give an answer like that.
I have a lot of favorite moments from the arc that we're currently doing, but I don't remember where we're at with publishing. So I'm just like not going to get into it because I don't want to spoil anything. But well, actually, I think one of them happened on the last episode that just came out where Taylor like let slip that he was a fairy, and then he was like, he like turned to Allie and was like, how did you do that? And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like really tickled me because like I could totally see that happening. I'm just like, wait, what the fuck? Like, why do I trust you so much? And then she's like, yeah, that's what happens, I'm sorry. Like,
Taylor and Doreen had done such a good job of keeping that a secret. And then like, even throughout the arc, and then the second that they were around, y'all just sort of said it, and Doreen was like, what are you doing? It's like, I just feel like I can trust her like so much. What the fuck? You know, like he was like, whoa, yeah, that was great.
I really enjoyed that. But the other thing that I was thinking about was when Garth, during his arc, played by Jordan Reed, he had like a hold 3 on something like an investigative mystery or something, and so he could ask the keeper like however many questions, and he blew one of them and was just like, how are you?
Yes.
And it was just
yes, I talk about that all the time
it
too.
was
It's
so
funny.
yeah, it was so perfectly Jordan.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it really, because it was also like a kind of a tense arc too, and so it was just like, I don't know, it was just really wonderful. I thought that was hilarious. So
yeah.
What about
you, Alex?
Well, am I answering to Colin or answering to Morgan?
Answer to the chat.
Answer to the chat. Hi. So probably my most favorite moment was missing Max's joke in No Strings Attached.
Yes. Okay.
When they said their names, like, what's your name? Pete. Zapardi. And I was talking to Max about it, and they got kind of not like miffed, but kind of like, oh, I guess people didn't like my joke, but I did not hear it. And there was like an awkward silence, and I was like, wait, did I miss something? Or like, then I listened back to it, and it was like, my name's Pete Zapardi. Like, how did I miss that?
You texted me about it. Like when the episode came out, Alex was like, I completely missed that joke. That is so stupidly funny. Like, how did I can't believe it. Like, oh man. Yeah.
I was sad that one fell flat, because Max told me about it when they were planning their character and was like, you can know this, but don't tell anyone what Pete's last name is, because it's like a funny joke, and I'll drop it, when I'm ready. So the whole time we were playing, I was like, okay, like when's he gonna, or when are they gonna drop it? When's he gonna reveal his last name? And yeah, and then Pete said his last name, and everyone was just like, huh? And I was like, oh,
I got Pete, but what was the rest of it?
Unfortunately, like moments like that are very easy to happen in podcasting, and I think even in, especially almost in actual plays, because sometimes people all talk at the same time.
Yeah.
Like there was a moment in this current arc where Morgan and I made the same joke at the same time, but I didn't hear Morgan say it because I had literally said it. Like, I mean, if you hear the recording, we have like it's like a half a second off.
It's so synced up. It's weird.
And that wasn't even like that. I didn't even move anything or change anything. That was just like when we synced everything up with clap syncs in the beginning, and like when the audio actually plays through, it was like same voice type of situation. And Graham only heard me say it. Yeah. And so Graham was like, Colin, that joke is so good. And then then I understood why Morgan was like, yeah. And at the time I thought Morgan, because Morgan had made a joke about 3 out of 4 things, and I made the last one. So I was like, I do feel bad that he seemingly only liked the last one. But we did both think it. So,
I guess it's a real case of synchronicity.
That was awkward. And I was like, well, this is maybe my audio cut out. I don't know. Right. They'll fix it in post.
Maybe it's just Graham. Who knows?
Yeah. What I was just like, oh, I should just delete Morgan's audio and make it sound like mine. No, I wouldn't do that.
Wouldn't be the first time.
No, that's not true. I only cut out jokes, I think, if they are something like, for example, one time we had a callback to something that actually got cut from an episode for time. And it was like it wasn't a matter of like character choices. It was like us talking to each other. Like someone had made a joke at like the very beginning of an episode, like just like in the chat, not in the chat, but like us talking. And I really try not to cut too much of like dialogue or anything like that, or us shooting the shit or whatever. But like sometimes if it's a difference between an hour and 10 minutes and an hour long episode, I'll cut some bits here and there that are not necessary. Or also like I cut out the moments where someone starts to say something and says, no, I don't like that. Hang on. I would actually probably say this instead, and then we try again. Because I think it's also, it's a real, it's an act, you know what I mean? Like we sometimes start to say something like we would say it, and we go, oh, my character wouldn't say that. My character would react differently. And I have to think about that for a moment, But yeah, I think some of my favorite moments, one of my favorite moments was I have two for Morgan. One of which was just more of Morgan's reaction to something, but the first one was in the most recent arc. There was a kind of like weaker minded, male character. Well, most males are weaker minded, but Allie, really kind of like had a hold on him in particular and was making him do things, and he was kind of struggling to fight against it, but then he would do these things. And Morgan said, that's right. Here's my favorite thing though. I never could tell if it was Morgan or Allie who said it, but either way, it made perfect sense, which was, I love making men do the things I want them to do. And I was like, I mean, that tracks, but I was just like, don't know which of the two people said that, but it's almost like, which of you said that? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like, okay, it just keeps happening to men. Like, I feel like if, there were some meddling women NPCs, that might happen as well. But since it's happened to two, I guess weaker minded men in this case, I was really getting it.
I also, that is actually something that I've also thought about. Like, I sometimes feel bad about this, but like, I do put, obviously female NPCs into stories, but I can't voice women very well. You know what I mean? Like, I only have so many female voices. So I frequently go, like kind of, I have a few more male voices in my repertoire. So it's a little easier for me to like throw one of those out. But
I felt like it's like pretty evenly spread. Bad. I mean, I'm not going to go do a spreadsheet on it, but
you're fine. I mean, I think that I think it really depends on the arc. Like some arcs I think have been very even. And the very, very first one, I think there were really almost no NPCs. The very first arc was pretty much like your dad, Officer Riggs, the main gargoyle villain, and then one other cop. I forgot about that, but like that was it. It was basically all just like people hanging out and chilling and talking. You know what I mean? So it's like it was mostly the characters. I mean, speaking to each other. So like there wasn't a lot of. Okay, hang on. There were also the NPCs that were Sam's band.
Yeah.
That were recording of him being like, "You guys are gonna do this song? Hell yeah!" I was like, "I'd really like to." Like just like me just like yelling at random lines. So good. But yeah, so I like that moment. I also really loved that you laughed, Morgan, for like 10 minutes at Tim sells insurance.
Yeah.
Morgan lost. I mean, we all laughed pretty hard, but Morgan just continued to laugh, and it was very pure and very wholesome, and I loved it. It's
was
good
a good
to
moment.
See. It's really great to watch. People have those kinds of reactions in moments. This is actually more off air, but like I loved Alex's reaction to the 5th arc, No Strings Attached. Alex had a lot of feelings and thoughts, and we can get into that in a second if you'd like. Because there's a lot going on there.
Are you sure?
But Alex,
I don't remember them.
Alex came to me and like had texted me like 30 texts in a row. It was like
while it was going down too. Like
while it was going down.
I think I just died. What?
Yeah.
Like, do I need to roll a new character?
Yeah, and there's so many things happening, but like the thing is, like to me, I don't know. It was good because it was also a favorite moment of mine because it's nice.
You're a terrible person.
No, it's more of it's nice to see the investment in the people and in the show, and like it was one of those moments where I was like, Alex is on board. You know what I mean? Because like Alex wants to know what the hell is happening.
Yeah.
Although your reaction to basically anything in your first arc, Alex, was great. Like almost everything was kind of just this like deep sigh and like, okay, I guess I got to deal with this now too.
I love Buck.
Yeah, Buck is great. Well, Buck is so stressed out.
If you've dealt with Hank and Lucy as much as Buck has, you would be like, oh, fucking fine. All right, let's just do this. It's not going to go any faster if I don't. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like a team player, but like resignedly so.
Right.
Yeah, because he doesn't have any other, because he gets paid to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I also love one of my favorite moments of the entire show though so far has been when Garth needed to keep people out of the way because there was like witches on the loose and stuff like that, and was like trying to keep people safe. So his idea was to record an anonymous video.
Oh, yeah, that was
like
so
the voice
good.
changer, and like, but then couldn't figure out how to turn off the camera at the end. That whole scene killed me. It's like it's a minute and a half long of just Jordan going, "People of Massachusetts, you better stay indoors, or I'm gonna get you." You know, like, and it's just like it's all so vague and just like bumbling through it. So funny. And then also, or else, how do I turn? Is it this? But no. Oh God. Oh, there it is. You know, like, so, and that again, that is also very Jordan.
Yeah.
So loved all of that. Okay, I'll stop asking questions. If either of you have questions, or if I think we may have had a question or two.
Switching glasses.
Any questions to the chat?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet.
So I guess
are these canonical glasses, or like, sorry,
these are mine. Yeah. These are not canonical. They can be. I don't know. She wears hipster glasses, so.
Well, these are both canonical and quite needed.
Necessary.
Yeah, these are my actual glasses.
These are my glasses, so I don't get a headache staring at the computer screen right now. So
these are so I can actually see. So I'm the only person who hasn't actually done an arc. So I guess my question to you two is, if you had more time to prep the arc, or if you had more time to develop while recording, what would you have done differently?
If I had more time to prep the arc, because I had like 6 months before we actually recorded it.
Well, like more time to record. Like, were like any avenues you didn't get a chance to explore, anything that like maybe the players didn't actually go into, and you had prepped this whole scene out, and then it just wasn't gotten to at all?
That's a good question. I know that happens to Colin a lot.
Happened in this arc.
Yeah, we fucked your arc up, and I'm sorry, but
no, it's totally okay. We made it work. I had to jump through some hoops on this one, but you know, I think that's part of the magic. You know, like, you keep me on my toes and I keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
But yeah, were there any avenues or like any clues that you had sort of written in that maybe you never got to because either people didn't ask for or didn't look for them? Or...
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. I've got my notes right there, so I could pull them out and look at them. But I think I managed to weave in everything that I wanted to. But I think I wish that I had made it longer. Like, there were some things that that like I ended up stalling us for time, because I was like, oh, we can't get there yet. Like, we need to do, you know, like, it's too soon for you guys to go do this thing, you know? So there was that. And then there were some like troubleshooting things that I think I probably should have foreseen. For instance, Pete wanting to blow up the entire house that had both the victims and the monster in it.
I've forgotten about that. Yes.
Yep.
I was so scared that's what was going to happen. I was like, no, please don't do this thing. Like, I don't want to have to describe that. So, you know, that was something that I guess I should have imagined that was going to happen, because I played that arc with some of my friends actually recently. Oh, I already said that. But when I was playing with my friends, they did the same thing. They were about to fucking light the house on fire. And I was like, why does everyone do this? I was like,
easy.
I was like, obviously the victims are in the monster's lair. Like, that's where would the victims be other than where the monsters camped out? Like, that seems so obvious to me, but everybody else is like, kill it with fire. And I was like, no. I mean, don't kill people.
I think sometimes it can be easy, especially in like heat of the moment. I think sometimes it can be easy to sometimes forget that there might be victims. Involved.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I also think that, like, and again, I'm not saying this is anything bad about any of the players or anything, but I also think that it reminds me a little bit of the Adventure Zone in their first arc. I think sometimes it takes characters a little bit of time to sort of find the good guy in them. Because I think sometimes it's very easy to say, well, we'll just blow it up, or we'll set it on fire, or, you know, we'll maybe rob the place or whatever. And eventually then you're starting to be like, oh, well, we can't rob this place. These people depend on it,
Yeah.
So like, I think that there's a little bit of also of like, hey, there's an easy way out. Let's do this. Right.
Yeah.
But like, if this had been like the third arc for Max's character, would Pete have been so quick to jump on, let's just blow the place up?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess I think that, I don't know, going back, if I were to run that one again, which I'm kind of sick of it now, so I'm probably not going to, but if I were to run it again, I might put some clues that like, hey, the victims might be in this house. Like, please don't destroy the house.
Or just like remove the gas tank.
It's electric.
Well, no, that's what happened in the Myth Takes one, but with my friends, they were just going to light the house on fire.
Oh,
like it was a totally different.
Worse somehow.
Right? They were like, "Oh, there's a scary monster inside, and it's horrifying. Like we're gonna light the whole place on fire." And then there was only one person that was like, "Wait, maybe we shouldn't." And I just had to sit there and let them work it out, and I couldn't say anything, and I was dying. It was the worst. So
in Alex's first arc, there was a moment where people wanted to do something that they're like, this will be a cool looking thing. But then in my head, I was like, you can't just do that without rolling though. Like, but I wasn't going to say anything because it's going to be their choice. But then someone finally goes, wait a minute. If we do that, would we have to roll for it? And I was like, yep. And then I had to reveal that was going to be my card there. And they're like, and I was like, yeah. And then everyone was like, we've got to come up with a new plan because they realized quickly that was going to mess up probably at least one person. What was it? They wanted to
ride the snow. Yeah, the snowmobile like jump into something.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, like y'all wanted to jump off last second, and y'all were all on board with it. So I was like, wait a minute, do we have to roll for it? Someone's going to die. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that part of the problem, or not problem, but like the challenge with, is Graham joining us?
Graham specifically.
Graham.
To audio and to video.
Ooh. I need to turn my other light on in my room.
Yeah, remember when I said I'd only be 30 minutes late?
Graham!
That's funny.
You're live, just so you know.
Yeah, you're live on twitch.tv/the Scavengers Network.
But I don't have a makeup on.
Well, too bad.
You should have fucking thought of that, huh?
Alex, oh my God.
Give me 1 second.
And I thought, dang it, I thought I had the best facial hair right now. Damn it.
Well, who?
I thought I did, but clearly I don't.
Well,
now.
There are 2 other people that have.
Well, it's not me. You. Yeah, I think it's you, Alex.
Whoa, okay. Colin has the best hair, though.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I put on whole new hair for this. This is not my hair. Yeah, just so you know.
Respect, Graham.
Yeah, your hair looks great, Morgan.
Thank you. Actually, this is like fucking ratty as hell. I need a new one.
I will say this ended up working out pretty nicely with the lighting. It does look more gray. I don't know what happened, but when I was looking for the hair dye, I went and looked through everything. I definitely have been looking at gray, and then I did a few other things, and then I came back and then I ordered. And I did double check the Amazon order. I did somehow accidentally order silver.
Oh, I mean, it looks silvery.
The thing is, it does, but like, let me tell you, up close, it looks metallic as fuck. But like
robot hair.
Luckily, like the lighting, and
it's got a vocoder.
That sort of helps make it look a little more salt and peppery. I was going to try and do my beard a little bit, but because there's so much exposed skin, I thought that it would just make my skin look white, which would look
good.
Weird.
Thing you didn't, because then you really would have been a robot.
Graham.
That's not Graham.
All right. Well, while Graham is figuring out his cam, maybe
there's a joke in there.
There is. Oh, okay. Well, we'll continue on without Graham for a moment here.
I don't remember what I was about to say before Graham came on, and
I don't remember either. But we'll let
my
Graham
world
get
so
situated.
Okay.
Well, honestly, my life BG I much prefer my life AG rather than BG. Before Graham, after Graham.
I'm not.
Took me a second. Look,
there wasn't enough context for that. I don't know why I do that.
I am not running on all cylinders today, so.
Well, and I don't know. I guess one of my long-standing bits that I hate is that I like make a joke that doesn't have any context.
Or sometimes like
or have a
Forgive me.
punchline.
Sometimes it doesn't have legs, and Alex is just like, I'm gonna stick this wheel under it. Hopefully that'll make it go.
I'm gonna push it down the hill to see how far it goes.
The amount of times that, and like I've only cut this out of podcast just because like it gets to a point where I feel like, oh, sorry, Graham joining in has changed the formatting of this Zoom call. I'm gonna change how we're lined up here a little bit.
Oh, it doesn't look bad on the thingy thing.
I just wanted to edge over just a little bit. Well, maybe. Okay. Well, yeah, it won't let me like do halfway in between those two spots. So I will just have to deal with it being slightly off center.
It doesn't even look off center.
Oh, it for where, well, maybe it's just OBS. Anyway, so we're talking about not firing on all cylinders.
And not firing Graham yet.
Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes in life,
Grip it and rip it, baby.
you just need a little pick me up. Which way? There it is.
Are they giving us money for this?
Try Dr. Pepper. 23
Are they
flavors.
are they giving us money for
We're
this?
doing a bit. We're doing a bit.
No. Okay. Look,
Graham,
if Mason could
Graham, do you have like a xylophone or something?
if Mason can spend 50 minutes doing an advertisement for Raycon,
For Raycon, you're gonna do
and us
Dr.
not
Pepper.
yeah, I'm gonna get Dr.
Colin, do the bit.
Here's my thing.
We're doing
Here's
like the
my promise to
Kickstarter
you.
thing. Come on.
Yeah, we will. Here's my promise to
Shall I
you.
go get my
I will find
ukulele?
a way to get Dr. Pepper to Graham's gone.
Oh, we lost Graham.
Oh.
I will find a way to get Dr. Pepper to like sponsor.
I
or
lost
something.
everyone.
You
Oh
lost
no.
everyone?
Oh no.
Oh God, it's
Oh
all
no, it's
going
just
off
Colin
the
and I.
rails. Alex, quick,
Back
what
to
do
how
we
it
do?
started. We're
Quick,
doing a bit.
start.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Am I back?
Yes, you are back.
Okay.
This is
Graham's
the
back.
ad break. Oh, Graham's back. This is, you know what? This is going just like an episode of
There it is.
Myth Takes.
Oh my god! As soon
Hey,
as
Graham.
literally as soon as I plugged in my camera, my audio just completely cut out. So I'm like, well, that's not good.
Oh, so
Sorry.
Graham couldn't hear us at all during all that. That's interesting.
No,
Well, good because we said a lot of
Oh,
really
we
bad
were
things
talking
him.
about you a lot.
I mean
Yeah.
that's fair. I assume this.
So many
It's
mean
fine.
things I do.
I like that my name.
Oh,
is
I didn't say
Graham.
anything mean.
Oh, I did.
I
Okay.
Morgan, I understand you. Colin just probably it's the usual from him. It's fine.
I love Graham. Don't let Graham fool you.
He's a tattoo of it, like
Yeah,
That says
From
I
the-
love Graham on your
Yeah.
back.
it's a tramp stamp.
Oh,
Nice.
lovely.
I
Like,
got on my
I'm
lower back.
honored.
Yeah, no.
it's in Helvetica too.
Helvetica
Comic Sans.
Standard? Or just
No
Comic
bowl.
Sans.
Ah!
So we've already answered these questions, but just to make sure that we've got it here on the stream and everything. What character do you play?
Oh, that's right. This is that's right. Hi guys, I'm
You're
Graham.
like,
and
what am I
voice-
doing here?
The only
I voice
podcast you're on,
Lucy.
man. Come on.
I'm sorry. I just got stuck in like I was driving, which I know is illegal right now. I went outside. Yeah.
It's not illegal, but
Feels illegal. I got stuck in the worst
Such a
traffic.
bad
It
boy.
was terrible. But hi, yeah, I'm
Quarantine
Graham.
traffic.
What?
We'll continue. Keep going. We'll
Alex,
continue
there's
this.
always traffic near Towson. Don't try and front.
Oh, no, it was on 70. It was going from
Oh.
70 to 495. They completely shut off the ramp getting off of 70 onto 495. I had to take the full detour to the park and ride.
Weird. All right, hang on. We're
terrible.
getting so
Okay,
inside baseball on
we'll talk
Maryland
about
traffic.
that.
I
Yeah,
got
We'll
a
talk about
nutsack.
Maryland traffic.
Let's talk about
Hey, you
modern
too?
baseball.
That was very good, Morgan. All right, so you play Lucy.
I do.
just
What
gonna eat
arcs
this.
have
Sorry,
you
guys.
been in?
The Salem Witch arc and the most recent one. I think it's currently airing.
Yes, so you've been in
Shit.
Forest Fighters and
Yeah.
crap, what was the second one called? That was called
The Salem Witches.
No, that was not what it's called. You're just obsessed with the Salem witches. That's
Yeah, because we got to take them out.
well,
I will not rest.
I can't tell if that's
Yes and no.
Graham or if that's just like Lucy's bit. Like, is that what you really think, or is that just like you really?
I
being
think it's
Lucy?
both somehow. Spellbound.
Oh
is
no
what
no
it's
no no
called.
no! That's Lucy. Lucy wants
Okay.
to kill the witches. I could care less. I think witches are cool. Graham
Spellbound
speaking.
was the name of it.
Spellbound. That's right. Yep.
That was the name of the arc. That was also where we met Terry.
Yes, it
Aw,
is.
Terry.
Terry's
Oh.
great.
Larry. I can't wait till the next iteration.
Yeah, if you think about it, yeah, the next Airy will be something.
Yep.
Maybe
know,
next,
Very.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe next we'll have Mary be involved.
You know,
My
Larry
other
was
meatball is a meatball. That's
What?
awesome.
It's backwards.
No, it's
No, it's
normal
fine.
for us.
What?
It's normal for
Is
us.
that an Italian
In
thing?
your webcam it is. No, that's
it was,
a
they
thing
said
from Myth
this.
Takes.
Look, it says myth takes on it.
Oh,
They
nice.
said they. Is that an
Said my
Italian
other
thing?
meatballs
I
and
mean, I gotta
meatball.
ask.
They said this on an episode,
Yeah.
and I thought
It
it
was
was
in
so
the
fucking
first
funny that
bonus
I made
content.
bumper stickers and I brought them to PodCon, and I still have a bunch of them. So
I will
if
buy
anyone-
one of those. That's amazing.
You could just have one. You send me your
Okay.
address, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Here it is. It is Fort. No I'm kidding. No, I won't dox you.
6'5".
I won't dox you.
I have moved. I will move again,
I have a
sir.
whole stack of them.
Nice.
You moved again?
I
No,
will
not
have to.
since he most recently.
Colin doxes
Okay,
me.
good. I liked your current house, which I assume
Yeah.
is your current house. It's nice.
Did you wait? Were you at the new house?
I think.
The
Yeah.
townhouse?
I think I went to the housewarming. I
Yeah.
brought wine.
Or was at the house cooling?
We're talking about Maryland stuff again.
Yeah.
All right, you're right. I'm
Enjoy-
sorry.
enjoy your nutsack, you're fine.
Morgan, go back to eating your nutsack. So
Hey, I already made that joke.
no, I know. I'm.
Or
this
did
is
you
me
not hear
formally-
that?
I
Did,
heard
did
it.
we
I'm
make the joke at the
formally-
same time because we were so well synced together?
Oh
Graham.
God.
God, Graham. All right, this is
Yes,
exactly
sir.
how Mythics goes. So this is literally making Mythics. No, Graham. So you've been in those two arcs.
Mhm.
What would you say is a favorite moment of yours for Lucy in Mythics so far?
Oh. For some reason, I had a lot of fun. This should have aired. Did this air when Lucy met Jane? Or is that about to air?
Lucy has met Jane, but it hasn't been like not all the information is out there.
Okay.
You got
who
to the
Jane is.
house though in the
Yes,
episode that just
okay.
aired.
Yes, you have
So
gotten to the
interviewing her
house.
in the forest has
Right,
aired.
so you exactly. So
Okay.
you've interviewed her and stuff like that.
That was my favorite. I had a lot of fun with that.
It was really good.
One of my favorite moments was just her going to Lucy. You sound kind of like Ted Bundy, but like some of the questions you were asking were just like so psychopathic, and it's like, Lucy,
Because
what
you
are
know what? I
asking?
didn't trust her. And
I
we'll
mean,
see
yeah,
if that
that's
helps
fair.
me or not later on, of course. But I just I was not on the Jane train.
I
was.
So
Talk about it later.
yeah. We'll have to come back to that someday.
I'm so sad it's not aired yet because I just want to talk about it.
I know.
but
I know. I mean,
it's been
yeah.
it was such a fun arc.
It really is. So we've actually finished recording that arc. We're actually well ahead of schedule right now, which is
Yay.
great. I would love to actually start recording the next arc if possible. But we'll sort of have to kind of play it loosey goosey a little bit, I think, because unfortunately at this exact moment, quite a few people's schedules are kind of up in the air. Because some people are moving, including myself, and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of things happening.
I'm missing out so much gossip. Alex didn't move. Colin is moving.
Why I'm moving
Morgan's
back to
eating
New
a
Orleans.
nutsack.
I'm moving back to New Orleans because I'm going to be attending grad school.
Okay, so you guys are gonna have like in-person classes, or are you moving there to do online stuff?
Well, we don't really know what's going to happen this semester. I imagine that at the very least, spring semester will be back in person. So, I mean, if they determine that they're not going to have in-person classes this fall, I may push back my move by a month or two, just because it'll be much easier and way less hot to move. Because let me tell you, moving in or out or moving at all in New Orleans in June or July is unbearable. In fact, it should be illegal by God himself. No, but okay. So Graham,
yes, sir.
Do you have a favorite moment in Mythics that is not based around your character? That's just sort of something that something that you've listened into, or maybe like in another arc, but like another character said that you enjoyed a lot?
I mean, I go back to just the first arc, because like the very first arc, which Morgan was in, and I guess we had TJ and
Annabelle.
That was kind of just my like introduction to just Monster of the Week in general, and kind of just like figuring out, or sort of like experiencing how these characters sort of work, how the world works. Because like, especially when they were introducing themselves, like I went into this going like, yeah, I'm playing this cool battle angel that like beats stuff up and she's really strong. And then like, as people are introducing characters, someone's like, yeah, my character's a nerd. She just kind of like uses cameras and she's a normal person. I go, well, how are you going to be useful? What are you going to do? And then like they all found different and unique ways to be like, I don't know, to do the whole like monster hunting thing. Like it all kind of came together. I don't know. Seeing people be creative with things that, at least when I first heard them, I'm like, that doesn't sound, I'm like, well, okay, that sounds okay, but like, what are you actually gonna do with that? Or that doesn't sound that interesting. And I'm like, oh no, that's actually kind of cool. I'd like that. That's fun. Like TJ and his football launcher. I'm like, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, I think that we also have something a little bit unique in this show, in the sense that because we have a rotating cast, we can really explore a lot of different character types, but also, you know, I think the game is perfect as it is, but we're definitely changing a few things here and there just to make it accommodate such a large cast, and also sometimes just us wanting to kind of have our own canonical bits and pieces. You know what I mean?
See, and that's
so I think that that's a nice thing as well.
I don't know how much I should say because things have yet to air, but I wish that I had had more conversations, or I wish that Lucy had talked with more of the other characters. Now, those events didn't really present themselves because of how like things kind of went down. Because basically when Lucy shows up, shit kind of hits the fan.
Right. Well, you know, so here's the thing, right? So I can reveal this much as kind of upfront, right? A lot of that arc changed kind of on the fly. And again, not a problem.
Sorry.
That is, it's okay.
I feel like that was my fault.
I mean,
not to name any names,
but no, but the thing is like that. I mean, still like, you know, I found a way to make it still work because, you know, I was like, I still got to get Lucy in here. So I have to find a way, you know, but the thing is that like there were originally written in some of those moments. And it wasn't until after we finished recording, I actually remember I sent Morgan a text and I went, I messed something up and I've just realized looking at it why one of the choices that I wanted to present didn't actually really happen. And it's all because I was kind of moving things in on the fly, things sort of happened out of order and all this other stuff. And so then I tried to change something. And then I realized that like I actually didn't present one of the moral conundrums at all that I wanted to present. And that I think is okay because sometimes things just aren't perfect, you know? But I was like, you know what though, we can make something like that happen again. And with things like the bunker breaks, we can still have those moments where, you know, Allie can be going into the kitchen to get a sandwich and Lucy is there to get her tea, you know, and now it's like, well, we're in this space together. How are you? You know?
Yeah, I
so
really wanted that to happen this arc, and I'm sad that it didn't because after the last bunker break, I remember listening to it going like, oh, it's on, it's going down. How dare you? Like I was so like revved up about it, and I was sad that nothing happened. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I absolutely want Lucy to have a heart-to-heart with Noctis because I have a very interesting, or I have a very, there's a dialogue that I want to have with Noctis that I think will be very beneficial to sort of like our characters' morals and what we're actually like trying to accomplish here.
Well, and they're both there for the apocalypse, right? So that's like interesting. Like those two characters ought to talk about it at some point. Like,
right.
And fundamentally, they could be serving the same purpose because Noctis doesn't really know why they're here. They're just like here. And it's like, so I'm just going to try to find my way, where Lucy's like, I am here to stop the apocalypse. I want to do everything I can to do so.
Well, it's also funny though, because like, you know, clearly like Colin Parker, want that to happen as well. But at the same time, Hank has this real fear of putting those two together because of knowing how Lucy is about things that are not similar to her or that aren't human. And so I think there's almost this fear of like, is Lucy then just going to pull out her sword in the middle of the bunker if there's just one wrong answer?
But and that's the thing. It entirely depends on their answer. Because the dialogue would go something, the big question that I would want to ask is, what are you going to do when all this is over? If we succeed, if somehow we accomplish what we set out to do, what are you going to do next? I'm leaving, you better be doing the same.
Right, because if Noctis is there to bring about the apocalypse and Lucy stops the apocalypse and then Noctis is still there, that's a huge liability. So
exactly. So Lucy's going to be like, okay, so you helped us. We all stopped the apocalypse together. It's time to go.
Yeah. That's really interesting to think about. Yeah. Because like I feel like because Noctis doesn't want the world to end. Like that's like the whole thing is that Noctis was brought into the world to end it and then said, no, I like it here. Like this is nice. And so I feel like Noctis might have a hard time convincing Lucy otherwise. Like Lucy seems like they have like trust, or she has like trust issues, or only trust herself or whatever, but like would be like, oh yeah, you say that, but like as soon as I walk away, and I know you're going to turn on me.
Answer for Noctis, but like I think that this is kind of part of the first initial conversation that Lindsay and I had in that introductory like episode, like in the prologues. There is also this sense of, you know, that kind of question could be like a big, for lack of a better term, eye opener for Noctis, because I'm not sure Noctis has thought that far ahead. Lindsay has probably thought of that for Noctis, but Noctis himself is, you know, very much still new to the world and kind of finding their place. And like that kind of question could have not necessarily an existential crisis, but that could be very interesting for them to have to go through and go, I don't know what I want to do. Never thought of it, you know, like, and to watch that sort of happen in real time could be very interesting. So Lindsay, if you're listening, spoiler, don't listen, don't. Okay.
But this, again, this is a question, because I mean, again, like hard and fast, that question applies to Lucy, Noctis, not so, I guess maybe Allie. I don't know how Lucy feels about Allie.
Allie's just trying to make it in the world and not piss anybody off is kind of her whole thing.
And you're a half whatever human monster,
succubus.
Like, which is you're half succubus, which is like, so like I don't know exactly. I'd have to think hard about how Lucy feels about that, because like inherently, I don't know. You're in that gray area. Noctis and Lucy are way on one side, but I mean, like and same goes with like Steph's character,
Natalie.
Natalie's the same way, where it's like, how do you treat regular humans that have an intrinsic ability to tap into an unnatural magic source? It's like, well,
I have a headcanon that Allie kind of like tiptoes around Lucy because like perhaps something happened out in the field one time or something, because like Allie kind of has anger issues. Like she's usually pretty chill until like she gets up to here, and then she's like, all right, you know what? Fuck all this. Like, I am done. You're all going down. I'm kicking everyone's ass now. Like, so I could just imagine her being like, I'm going to be very well behaved around Lucy. And then one time something happening unrelated to Lucy and her being like, Lucy, like, shut the fuck up and just get on board with everything right now, or whatever, you know? So I kind of have this headcanon that she like tiptoes around her because of that, like, and be like, oh, I'm sorry that like one time I called you like winged moron, like, you know, are we cool? Like, can we just be cool? So
no.
I don't know. Yeah, like, okay, great.
Okay, so I have one more question, and then I don't know if y'all have any others, but I'll ask my last one here. Which is, and this is something that I asked last year as well, but I'm just sort of curious. So we've faced quite a few monsters already. We've now faced 6 different creatures throughout our, well, actually technically 7, because there were 2 in one arc actually. But you know, what are things that we haven't seen that you would, you know, like to see in this, you know, in this show, you know, if we can get to it?
Like what kind of monsters?
Yeah, like what kind of cryptids, or like, or if maybe if you don't have a cryptid in particular, is there like a place that you're like, hey, you know, we've never fought a monster in blank, would love to see how we deal with monsters in this city or this country or whatever.
Well, I guess this kind of ties into the last question about conversations you haven't had with other characters. And I think this kind of goes into maybe delving more into the backstory of Hank and Buck, where there's something there, and we've kind of touched on a little bit of it, but there's still like a whole lot that, I mean, you and I have like worked out some details, but like there's still a whole lot that we haven't talked about. So seeing some kind, and I don't know how much we want to give away with that,
You could probably give away
A little bit.
Yeah.
So like at least from what I remember, like we met in a combat situation where people that were in our own teams were no longer there, and then we had to find a way to make it work and get out of that situation.
Yeah, we reintroduced, like, I think that if I'm not mistaken, and I think we have spoken about it actually in the show as well. Buck used to work for the same department of government that Hank also worked for, which we also haven't mentioned yet, but I
The
have
agency.
a reason for that. Right. We always kind of jokingly call it the agency, but like it is coming up kind of soonish.
Yeah.
Like not the next arc, but I think the arc after that, it'll actually be addressed and like finally kind of talked about and discovered. But you know, basically they were sort of two different parts of it.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, Hank was sort of this kind of boss figure to Buck, but like didn't really ever deal with Buck personally, like maybe once or twice almost in passing. But that was also back when Hank was much more vile of a man and was kind of, you know, sending people out to do these terrible deeds and sometimes bringing things back to do even worse deeds. You know, and so I think there's a lot of conversation to be had there to sort of unpack some of that relationship and like why Buck still trusts him even after all this time. I think is also an interesting.
But we'll dial into another question, but I guess it would be nice to see some kind of consequence from that moment. I don't know if it would get into necessarily like a zombie sort of thing, but like I guess maybe Buck seeing more because I feel like Buck hasn't necessarily seen everything that Hank has done. Like he has an assumption like, okay, so there's been this and there's been this and there's been this that I've seen. There's probably a lot more, but I don't know. But I'm just going to assume that we're cool and I'm just going to do my job and I'm just going to keep this going as much as I can. But
I have a question for you, actually, based on what you just said, Alex. Does Buck consider Hank a friend?
That's a good question. You know, I guess I haven't been in the mind of, but I feel like this is like actor studio. How does it feel like being in the mind of this character? Can I talk to Buck?
Can I speak to Buck, please? All right.
I'm knocking on the door. Nobody's there. You know, I don't know if he really considers Hank a friend. I mean, certainly an associate. But I wonder if with how much they've gone through, I don't know if friend is necessarily on the table. Not like there can't be any kind of positive relationship there and there can't be a deep relationship there. This might be going into more Homestuck stuff where you have like the different quadrants of a friendship. And I guess
I don't know what you mean by Homestuck stuff. So
yeah.
Oh well, if Max is watching, they'll know. But I guess more of like there's a compliment there. Like this character is one way, this character is another way, and they work together.
Sure.
But they might not necessarily get along all the time, or things might not necessarily like work outside of the situation, but in the situation that they're in, it works, and that's why it's maintained.
Makes sense. All right.
So
sorry. Okay. I something that you had just said made me think of that, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was like,
that's fine.
This is a good time to tie that in, but also I was morbidly curious.
Yeah. Not like I don't consider you a friend.
No, well, no, I think if you don't, I would be a little concerned by this time. Does Allie consider Hank a friend? Hank needs a friend.
Can we talk to Allie?
Let's go.
Allie desperately wants to like Hank and think the best of him, but he's challenging that a lot.
I have a feeling that it's a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Kind
exactly. Like she's like wants to be supportive and like this man, but he's a challenging individual is what Allie thinks
Allie
of him.
For being such a bruiser and just like I mean, truthfully, monstrous person, right? But not like personality, but like, you know, physicality and everything like that. She is such a cinnamon bun. She's so warm and cuddly and friendly. And
she tries so hard.
Yeah.
Say something that's like a little specious, and she's like, I will end your life. Back down. And I love it. There's like this great, you know, like dichotomy there. This
It's really fun to see like where her line is basically. Like like she'll try to keep it chill until until the line is crossed, and then she's like, okay, gloves are coming off, I guess. Like, you made me do this.
Can I write in a future arc conversation between Buck and Allie about like what do we do about Hank? Like, like how do you feel? How do you feel?
That would be wonderful.
Are there retirement homes for
mad villains, ex-villains?
Oh, never mind. I can't talk to that. I work on a lot of retirement homes.
I was like, were you planning on putting me one in Grant?
Oh no. But if you want,
your hair's already silver.
Yeah, I know. I'm already going. Okay, sorry. So Buck, nope. That's not your name. You're Alex. Alex, what you were saying something before that though.
So I guess painting more of the history between Buck and Hank, like going into, I guess, more of the deeds that Hank had done and like the prior status between the two of them. I guess one monster that I would want to see is some kind of consequence of their relationship together. Like maybe going back to that initial scene. I don't know if it would be, I think like maybe like a zombie situation, like here are all the people that have died and you get to see them again would be a little heavy handed. But I don't know if there would be a way to like reference that a little more directly without going into, without making it super heavy handed, I guess. But I don't know.
No, I feel you though. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I have a way to work something at least close to that.
Yeah.
If not that, into the arc in question. So I'll make sure to make note of that.
Follow-up question.
Yes.
So in a much earlier episode of Journey Under 30, we had an episode where it kind of went off the wall and we made a fake company that had monsters and Snollygaroo. So how much is the agency influenced by Snollygaroo? I gotta ask.
Probably not a lot, because that was more of a joke, and this is definitely a lot more serious. Although we have had a Snallygaster. Sorry,
it doesn't. No, it's not the same.
Well, Snallygaster was where part of Snallygaroo came from.
That's fair.
So we've had. Wait, what's a Garoo? Where did the Garoo come from? I don't remember.
Because we were trying to make it like it was like a Northrop Grumman joke, like taking two words.
No, I meant what creature was Garoo from?
Oh,
is it just a Garoo? I don't know. We'll figure that out. We'll have to
Garoo to you too.
We'll have to go check the tape on that one.
Yeah.
Morgan or Graham?
Graham, you can go ahead. I have an answer, but you just haven't been on the call as long as I have. So
I want something underwater.
Ooh.
Like an underwater arc with like whatever.
Good news for you.
A beach episode.
Monsters.
There is.
I take it back.
No. There is something planned for that. Don't worry.
Okay.
I got you.
I'm worried.
I want like aqua, whatever, sea monster men things. I want mermaids. I want sirens. I want
seamen.
No, I said sea monsters. Sea monster men.
Likely story.
Yeah, it's okay, Graham. You're in a safe space.
On Twitch.
Sirens and mermaids.
Oh, hey, welcome, Mason. I just saw.
Hey, Mason.
Oh, hi.
Welcome.
Mason has been quiet until just now, and then said, "Ooh, got him, Colin."
Well, Mason, you're missing about 14 lowercase O's.
Mason, do you have any questions about milkshakes for us? Like,
ask your question.
Do you want to speak
Morgan
to Hank, Buck,
What's
Allie,
your favorite type
or
of semen?
Yeah.
Stop it.
With an A or with no A's?
Also,
you keep thinking about it, Mason.
Well, yeah, salted caramel. Very good.
Also,
so Morgan, while he's writing his answer, what was your answer?
Oh, I want Allie to run into her mommy at some point and work through some unresolved family issues.
There's some baggage. There's
a lot of baggage that we have not really gone through. So I'm excited to go through it. So for those that are uninitiated or whatever to her backstory, her mom is a succubus and disappeared when she turned 4 years old. And she never knew her mom. But her mom, it has been hinted that her mom will be coming back for her someday, whatever the fuck that means. So,
but if Allie's mom is a succubus, does that also mean that she's been alive for an indeterminate amount of time, like hundreds of years potentially?
Yes.
Potentially.
Okay. So like you could have brothers and sisters that are like.
She could, yes. And she has an auntie that she's named after. This is a fun piece of Allie lore. Her full name is Allie Bassandra, which is actually the name of a succubus demon from ancient Egypt. So, and I always say, like, I'm like always like, oh, she was named after her aunt, and like that's my little thing in there. Like her aunt is a thousands of year old demon from Egypt.
Yeah.
Not that she knows that, but I know that. So that would be fun.
So there could be a whole army of like Allie's siblings.
Yeah, for sure there could. And I kind of imagine too with my, like, I don't know, take on the succubus lore is that it takes a while for succubi to like come of age. So so she hasn't like come of age yet, so to speak, even though she's like an adult in human terms. So the mom may be coming back when she, has been deemed coming of age to collect. Right. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Also Chupacabra, because as you know, Colin, that is one of my favorite cryptids.
Look, real talk,
Chupacabra and a scuba suit.
It's like it's the most fun
scuba
name to say.
Scuba Cabra. Scuba Cabra.
Chupa Scuba. For some weird reason, saying Chupa Scuba makes me think of the Monsters Inc. of like welcome to the Himalayas. I don't know why, but I just love that moment. It's a great moment. That's the abominable snowman, though.
Mm-hmm. Don't eat the yellow snow.
Yeah. So here's something totally unrelated, but I feel like it's a fun little getting to know you question. What would you say is the favorite artist or genre of music for your three characters?
I don't know.
Amy Grant.
I don't know who that is.
A Christian, whatever.
Okay, makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Well, so then in the I guess in the theological hierarchy, so then the outside powers like listen to human music.
I guess
I'm assuming while here on Earth.
Yeah, no, that was a joke based on
there's time to be spent in the.
This is no time for jokes, Graham.
Oh, sorry.
Very serious.
Maybe be serious about
Amy
Lucy's
Grant
favorite.
Is a very good
Didn't we also go? Okay, I have a follow up after the favorite music of characters.
Okay,
get back to me.
I think in the first arc that Allie was in, she was like closing down the shop, and you asked like, "Oh, what kind of music does she listen to?" Mm-hmm. And I personally hate that kind of question because I am not a music person, but I answered something like, "Oh, like weird '80s, like goth, like Depeche Mode and Bajas or whatever." And so I guess I still stand.
New Order, yes,
yeah, and New Order, yeah, like Misfits. Like I feel like that's like what she listens to. And I've given a lot of thought because every once in a while, Colin, you ask like what somebody's ringtone is, and I've given it so much thought in case you ever ask me, and I still don't really know the answer. But right now, I'm just leaning to Personal Jesus because I just feel like it'll be easy for you to find a MIDI file.
Well,
I was going to ask.
You know what might help both you and Allie figure out what kind of music you want is by trying out the brand new headphones brought to you by Raycon.
Stop it.
Raycon is a wireless headset. No, I'm kidding. I only said that because Mason is in the chat, and
Mason says, "Not a music person. What does that mean?" And it means that
it means you gotta be playing the game by our second sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends.
No, I don't.
Last week when we did Family Game Night, Mason did probably 40 minutes worth of Raycon ads, and I was like, "We are not getting paid for this. You have to stop."
Yeah. No, I don't like listen to music like usually. So that's what I mean when I'm saying not a music person. So if you ask me like what kind of music I listen to, I just kind of go, I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's types of music I like. I couldn't tell you what it is though, because I don't fucking know. So when you guys are all like, oh, this band and this singer and this reference and blah, 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 I'm like, I can't take part in this conversation. Yeah. So I'm not a music person. That's what that means. So
yeah. Anyway. I would say for Buck, it would be a lot of it would be like Tom Waits and Bob Dylan. Like Tom Waits is who he would want to be, like have that kind of like gruff voice and like you've been smoking for like all your life, but then having kind of like the witticism of Bob Dylan. But I guess if we're taking like modern music as canon, he would kind of see himself more like the Nationals' Matt Berninger, just kind of like that. The image of like I guess like a washed up kind of guy who's just like just doing what he can, and that's who he identifies with. So the National, and then Tom Waits, and then Bob Dylan.
I mean, it'd be super easy to just say that like Lucy listens to gospel or I don't know, some sort of
short time
like that Lucy, character choice, honestly.
Yeah, but I don't.
That what Lucy listens to? And then there's like one guilty pleasure. Of like,
I every now and then
puts on like Avril Lavigne, and it's like,
no. I feel like that's actually not what she listens to, because part of the reason why she does all of this is she enjoys partaking in the culture of the people around her, because the only thing that can't be recreated are basically the liberal arts ideas, stories, books, like anything scientifically, whatever, any scientific advancements can be made by anyone. Only one person can write a book. Only one person can write whatever, Moby Dick. Like, if you go to any other whatever, no one's going to perfectly recreate that. So that's something unique that only can be experienced on Earth. So I
feel like she wouldn't like pop music though.
Yeah.
I was thinking instrumental stuff, like lo-fi. Because I like that stuff. It's just easy listening.
Lo-fi hip hop to slay to.
Snarky Puppy would probably be.
That's probably.
Mason has a question for you, Graham. He said, "Where does your character voice come from? Is Lucy's voice inspired by a particular person, or is it just purely a feels right situation?"
Oh, geez. That's a that's a much better question I was prepared for. I have to lean more towards it just feels right. It's just kind of it's just a voice that pops into my head. Because of course, I mean, I can't voice the exact character I can't voice a proper female character correctly. So it's just kind of whatever pops in my head is like, yeah, that's Lucy. There we go. That's what I'm going with. But I mean, like, I'm definitely influenced by a lot of different voice actors that do any sort of voiceover. Sorry?
Like who?
I mean, like Erica Lindbeck, Erica Mendez, talk about Jeremy Lee, all these people.
Mason says that Lucy has a particular cadence, and he wasn't sure if that was like an emulation of somebody.
Yeah, she does. She has like a way of speaking that seems very specific to her, and it's, I don't know, it's good. I like
it is funny that there's a bit of a holier than thou context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is very, on the nose, but good. You say grating?
Oh, I'm not supposed to talk as Buck. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there are any direct.
Mason just loves when we all like burn each other. Is what I'm getting from
the crowd.
The Lucy thing is definitely it has to be a hodgepodge. I don't think there's anything I'm directly pulling, but there's definitely influences from a whole bunch of things that a bunch of media I take in. The question that I had for you guys, this was brought up, I think maybe last episode or a couple episodes ago. I don't remember. But which Hogwarts house would your character be in? Lucy, of course, is Slytherin.
I think I answered Ravenclaw, but I'm not. I don't think that's right. Actually, I think Allie's a Hufflepuff.
Really? I picked Gryffindor.
Oh, Gryffindor works too.
Because she's very brave and very kind of like leaderish and like
she does kind of dive headfirst into like stupid situations too. So
I feel like about that. The other thing is, I feel like there's obviously other people who can be courageous even though they're not in a house. Because the thing is, like, not that Allie wasn't courageous to begin with, but I feel like Allie's courage has grown over time.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like your initial rush to action was purely like fear of losing your father.
Right.
And then it grew into this like, well, now I've got to watch over these like freaking teenage kids.
And this old guy's telling me what to do.
Right. And then it was this like, Well, I weirdly am on board with this idea of protecting and saving a world from dangerous creatures because I have this ability. So I guess I'll do it. And then eventually it became like, yes, I'm jumping into the forefront.
I'm going to stick with Hufflepuff. When we asked, so the episode that got released where I answered that question is not canon. I just wasn't in the headspace. Like, I'm in a different space right now, and I think Hufflepuff actually really fits her. So that's what I'm going for.
Ravenclaw when she did the BuzzFeed one, but Hufflepuff when she did the Pottermore. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pottermore one is real.
Yeah.
Mason said
Buck?
Riggs equals Filch's cool brother.
Yeah.
Riggs is magical, though. How dare you assume that he wouldn't have strong? No, he probably would have bumbled his way.
Would be
through
the
that
sorting cop.
school. Yeah, he was probably like, I guess Expelliarmus. Maybe. Oh God,
But he'd throw off a foul and do something completely different.
Riggs.
I know.
I miss him.
Riggs is great.
I think Buck would want to be Gryffindor, but
Sorry,
and
I was laughing not at you. I
I'm
realized
used to
that
it,
sounded
fine.
like I was laughing at you saying that your character wants to be a certain way. It was
well, I'm used to it, Colin. No,
making a
we've
joke
known
about
each other for like
using
10 years. I'm
spell.
used to it, man. It's
I was saying that
we're good,
Riggs was
we're
going
good,
to
we're
use a
good.
spell, and Mason said meatballs come out, and that's what I laughed at. Sorry, it was just poor timing.
You're good.
Sorry. So nope. Buck wants. Oh my God, Buck would be Gryffindor.
Well, in his heart, wants to be Gryffindor, just because he kind of has this built-in perspective of, I should be a hero, I should be this, and I should be that. But then it kind of acknowledges that he's not that, and then decides, you know what, maybe something like Hufflepuff wouldn't be bad. They've got, according to the Harry Potter Wikipedia, and this is Buck talking, they are the most inclusive. They value hard work, dedication, patience, loyalty. So
I've just come up with an idea. This would be probably very difficult to do audio-wise, but
is he not Ravenclaw?
we should get the entire cast to get on a Zoom call in character.
So many
answer
people.
questions, maybe not necessarily like all at the same time, but like have people, like each one of us read out like about a different question in character and have us answer the sorting house questions in character and see what they get. Like, you know, like
I like that. That'd be
because
fun.
that would be fun. Because it would be so good to have someone go, it's like, Hufflepuff, what the hell? I've always been Gryffindor. I promise you, I've always been Gryffindor whenever I do these things. And then like also like just Hank being like, I gave up after the third question. This is, I don't understand any of these
They did
things.
not let me in.
What is a Ravenclaw? A Ravenclaw is something that you would use in like some sort of potion of some sort. I'm gonna go make a sci-fi gun or something, you know. No, but like I still think it would be very fun. What was Hank like as a kid?
Oh, Colin, you didn't say what
insufferable.
The thing is, yeah, that so okay. So Hank, here's the thing. I don't know. This is gonna sound like such a cop-out answer though to what you just asked, Alex, but I feel like Hank immediately just wouldn't care. Like he is so far out of that world, you know. I think that he probably, like, if he would be, he would probably be Slytherin. And not to assume that all bad people are Slytherin, but obviously it's a pretty common.
He'd be in the evil house.
It's people that seek power.
But also, I also think that he would be a kid who probably would have gotten kicked. Like hypothetically, if there was an AU in which we all went to
Finish that sentence.
I have an idea. I have an idea for. Hang on, I have an idea.
School of witch takes and mistakes. Witchcraft and mistakes.
There's an idea for a one shot. No, but I think that in an AU in which they, you know, all went to Hogwarts, I think Hank would have been kicked out for
kids on brooms.
Yeah, that is a possibility. Remind me about what you just said though in a second. But to answer your question, Mason, Hank was. I got to think because there's some stuff that I don't necessarily want to. Well, no, you know what? I'll just reveal it now because I think it's one thing to kind of do some stuff in fiction and just sort of describe
lore.
It. I think that Hank was not always an awful kid. I think that Hank definitely always was interested in science. You know, I mean, he's much older than everyone else and grew up in a time where there certainly wasn't any of the modern tech that we have now, and was creating things that, you know, probably modern day citizens or the citizens of back then wouldn't have seen for at least another 10 or more years, and was probably frequently called a nerd, made fun of. And it wasn't until high school in which Hank first started becoming angsty and kind of cantankerous. Kind of had to learn to fight because was always getting bullied and picked on for being the nerd. And then eventually Hank no, there's one part of this backstory that I won't reveal just yet, because that's going to be a part of something that's coming up. But Hank definitely had sort of a few rougher moments in his early teens, and then went on to college to, get multiple degrees at a kind of younger age, finished high school early kind of thing. And just sort of throughout life, just sort of kind of continuously got worse, I think, as his line of questioning got more dark. And my headcanon for Hank has been this thing of he was an evil man, but like, okay, so to answer the question in full, I finally have a better way to sort of finish the full history here. One of the things that I think makes a lot of villains interesting is I think it's more interesting when you have a villain that thinks that they're a good guy, right? They're just evil because they go about doing something the wrong way. And that is sort of really what the real story of Hank is Hank was not like the Joker who was like, I just want to watch the world burn. Hank was like, I think that I have ways to save people or to create these technologies or these medicines or whatever, that anything that he was working on at the time. And, clearly had a mind for things that were well beyond his time, got brought into the government and sort of asked to do these things. And as he progressively did worse studies, he kind of got caught up in the moment of like, well, it's for science, it's for the betterment of humanity. Surely what I'm doing can't be that wrong, until things started to go sideways and eventually the everything sort of ended. And I think it wasn't until his time at the agency was done that I think that's when he finally saw the evil and the bad that he had done, and and I think that's the reason why he does want to go out and fix things, because he was like, how did I lose sight of all these good things that I wanted to do?
Yeah.
I don't think at any point was he ever the kind of person that was like, I'll kill a man and I don't give a hell about it. What the hell? That I meant to say, don't give a shit about it. And I said, don't give a hell. That's not what he sounds like, or does. You know what I mean?
I think Hank does know how to cuss.
He definitely knows how to cuss. I don't know what happened.
He's from the South. Of course he knows how to curse.
Yeah.
Hank, sorry, wait 1 second. Hank is almost like a post-redemption arc character. Yes and no. I think he's still
going through his redemption arc right now, right?
It's been like a 20-year redemption arc.
Yeah,
he keeps fucking up is the problem.
Right. Well, I think we talked about it. I don't think this episode has come out yet. I think it's in the next one. But part of the problem with Hank is that he set his entire neighborhood on fire, essentially. And every arc and every episode, he puts out a small fire and goes, all right, great. Oh my God. And turns around and realizes that the fire
we did talk about
is still raging.
I thought that wasn't a metaphor at first.
No, I mean, it is a metaphor.
When he was in high school, he set his whole neighborhood on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Angsty teenager set the whole neighborhood on fire.
Well, when I was a teenager, on a dare, someone said, you probably can't set the whole neighborhood on fire in 45 seconds.
I said, fuck you, I can.
I said, hang on, let's start the timer after I get my chemistry set. And
hold my Dr. Pepper.
I said, hold my Dr. Pepper. And sure as hell, 25 seconds later, that whole street was aflame. Won $25.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So on the topic of influences, going back into the question of like who influences Graham's voice, I guess going through everybody. So are there any particular like inspirations y'all had for your characters? Like any particular like bits you pulled from like this person, that person that you brought into one, or was it like you were building from the ground up?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go first. Mine's worse. I guarantee you.
I mean, I don't know. The first time I ever played, so Allie wasn't an original character for Myth Takes, kind of. When I played Monster of the Week one time ever before Myth Takes started with a random group of folks from the internet, very nice people who I don't speak to anymore. I made her for that. And when I was going through the playbooks, I couldn't find anything that I actually like related to and wanted to play. I actually was like really struggling with it. And I was like, all of these kind of suck and I don't really want to play any of these characters. Like this isn't a game for me or whatever. And so I settled on the Monstrous just because it seemed the most interesting to me. And I was really just kind of caught up with the idea of the curse that the Monstrous has, because every Monstrous has to have a curse that the keeper can kind of like trot out to use against them, more or less. And one of the suggested curses was lust. Like that's what the playbook said, was lust, and that like the character, like if there's any opportunity to like fulfill that, then they have to take it. And so I was like, oh, lust is interesting. Like, what could lust be? And so then I kind of went down this like succubus road. And then I was like, you know what? It's kind of weird to have a character that might possibly want to fuck everyone on accident. I don't think I want to play that. So I changed it to be the life force thing. But she wasn't really inspired by like anybody. But building her like demon lore, I think, has kind of come from like back in my brain. Like I've kind of always been obsessed with like the idea of like demons, and I don't know, just like that kind of lore has always been really interesting to me. So I really wanted to build something into this character based on that. So everything about her and her backstory and like the way things work for her are kind of based on this like demonology lore that I have going on in my head. So that's my answer.
I think that's also really interesting because, it's not to say that like we're going to get real horned on the show or anything, but like, I think that there's an interesting way of wording, sort of in a way of like how you chose to change that, because like the way that succubi also like canonically, work and everything like that, I think that the feeding of energy still works within that.
Yeah.
Because like they still usually have the lust aspect, but like they use that to either like entice people in or whatever to then get that human energy. I don't know what are we calling it? Life force.
HP.
So, there's still
HP. Yeah, she takes your HP.
Yeah, she takes your HP. So there's still interesting ways of like using that without being like, hey, Myth Takes is now rated R.
Right. And yeah, and so kind of what I kind of am having fun exploring that succubus like archetype, because like, yeah, like traditionally in like traditional demon lore, the succubus comes to the man at night and steals his semen. And that's where we get nocturnal emissions from. Okay. That's what it is. That's a succubus. Okay. And so I was like, okay, this is, that's too much for me. But I was trying to kind of explore the fact of like myths and legends come from real stuff. So if succubi were real, what would they actually be like that then inspired the myths and legends? And I think maybe they would be people that, do have like natural charms and are able to kind of like influence folks in order to feed themselves, essentially. So
Mason, yes, that is what it's called. And also Alex, I was going to make the same joke. So Mason said nocturnal emissions, that cannot be the right word. And
I think, okay. Sorry, go on.
Okay. Mason, I have many questions for you. Mason wants to know then what are sleep farts, not nocturnal emissions. No, but it's so funny. I started thinking I could name an arc nocturnal emissions and have it be based around something, whether that's the arc in which, your mom comes back, or maybe it's just like a matter of like, there's a like gaseous, like
that's so bad,
but like you can only see it at night kind of thing, but like still.
This is the second time in like a week, because I was just talking about Allie to my wife that I've said nocturnal emissions, and she was like, what are you talking about? And I think what happened,
that video or whatever.
No, I think for me, like I've been reading too much Old Testament, and like the translation is nocturnal emissions, and that's where that's coming from because I am a Jewish nerd. Sorry. Anyway,
Mason, to
I think
answer
that's
your
where I got it from.
question, there was a
Fuck you
sex
guys.
education video that was entitled
Nocturnal Emissions.
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
kind of like this like after school special that's like all about like explaining what a well, we're getting into sex education apparently on this episode.
We got to change the rating on the stream.
I know,
Sorry.
it explains what a wet dream is. So okay, I've got to move on though because we can't talk about that anymore.
Okay, so Graham, what were the influences for Lucy?
Personality wise and like morals and all that stuff are pretty just kind of like my own take on the divine being sent to the human world. In terms of appearances, I shamelessly took a lot of her attributes from a character from an anime that I love. To no one's surprise, probably.
I was just about to say, finally it comes out.
Yeah.
So a witch?
Can I not? Can I put images in the group chat?
No, you can't. But you could. Don't share your screen. Never mind, because it's gonna make everything get all wonky. But just tell us the name, and we can all Google.
Because there's a very particular. I'll keep delaying while I try to set up a link or something. I don't know. Like it's funny because none of this was intentional. But recently one of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games came out last month. I think it's a month old now.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as I'm playing through this, I'm like, the character from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is kind of like what Lucy is in a more PG setting. A human being sent to the Pokemon world to prevent it from being destroyed. And then at the very end, after making all of these friends and saving the world and being like, yes, I'm a hero now. And then the world being like, you got to go back. You got to leave.
You meant that the Pokemon character was the more PG version.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. For a second, I was like, what is happening in that game?
No. It's wholesome.
I was like, what?
Yeah. At the end of the Pokemon one, the guy's like, no, I don't want to leave. All my friends are here. I saved the world. And they're like, no, you have to leave. And then they just disappear. And then all of the Pokemon friends, they all start crying. It's all really sad. And I'm like, wait, this could be Lucy if Lucy ever gives a shit.
Lucy secretly gives a shit, I feel like.
We'll see.
I think it depends on the moments. She's had a couple moments where she's made choices.
Oh.
She cares about humans. Absolutely.
Hey, Mason would like to know, what is Lucy afraid of, if anything?
God's wrath.
Well, your version of God is incorrect, no matter like which religion you choose. So
damn.
Sorry.
Lucy's saying that. I want to be specific.
Oh yeah.
The character thing, not.
Can you say that again in the Lucy voice?
Or religious.
Sounded like the Lucy voice, kind of.
My voice is shot right now.
No. I'm specifying for anyone who's ever listening or watching later.
Oh yes.
So that everyone knows that Graham isn't.
Graham
I don't even know what the word is, but
like
yeah.
a raging
atheist.
Saying, it's like, your religion's wrong. No. Lucy just thinks that way because she knows. Shoot. Oh, Lucy is afraid of dirt, germs, and getting dirty. She is a germaphobe, even before all of the COVID stuff. Shoot, where did I find this? I found the perfect image.
So, Colin.
Yes.
I guess tossing the question to you. So, are there any particular influences for Hank?
Yeah, Hank is okay. So, this is gonna sound so stupid, but like I remember, at one point when I was trying to figure out what character I wanted to be and what I felt was gonna make the most sense for bringing people on board and stuff like that. And I read through I don't think it's called Mad Scientist. I think it's called. I forgot what the playbook is called all of a sudden, but it is a blank scientist that's an additional playbook for Monster of the Week. And I was reading through that and I was like, I could make something that is like Rick from Rick and Morty, but is like not the worst thing that you've ever seen, because that's a good example of like a show and a character that has been hijacked for the wrong reasons, kind of like the Joker and a few other things that's like, some people really just run that into the ground and kind of ruined it.
Calm down.
Yeah, it's like, hey, also it's a character, y'all. But like, I kind of thought
you don't understand the nuances to his character. Your brains are just too small to understand his sarcastic appeal. I fucking hate Rick and Morty. I'm sorry.
But the other
Graham
thing is
with
that,
the hot takes.
Yeah, I'm
there's
sorry.
a few other pieces of content that I think kind of create this character. I forgot his name, but like the main doctor in Fringe also had a lot of.
Oh yeah,
I forgot his name. I'm so sorry.
No, but I know the one you're talking about.
He had a lot of influence on this character as well. And then for the voice specifically, I wanted a voice that was going to be, something that would go against a typical idea of what a scientist would be.
Walter Bishop.
You know? What's that?
Walter Bishop.
Yes, that's exactly it. Thank you. So yeah, Walter Bishop was a large influence on this character. But like, there's also like the voice and everything like that. Like I had kind of contemplated a lot of things because I feel like a lot of mad scientists are like British or sometimes just like an average American voice. I mean, almost like this, but like deeper, like just like a deeper version of my voice would frequently be like what you would hear as a mad scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want to go for something that in stereotyping in TV shows, people tend to think go for a dumb character. And, like I get, I'm not sorry, that's going to come out weird. It's like, I get that this has been this long standing thing, but like, not every Southerner is like a bumbling idiot, you know what I mean? But like, to me, this kind of like almost cowboy sounding, deeper South sounding gentleman that you would expect to be like, well, I'm going to go watch myself some NASCAR and, pop open a beer. Like, that's what you would expect a character like that to say. But instead he's like, okay, also, I don't know anything about science. I'm an idiot with science. But like,
instead he says science things.
Right. I know, but like, if he was like, all right, well, all you need to do is, follow this formula. And then like, he would on a chalkboard write out like 8,000 characters and like all these things. And he's like, I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it. Like it all solves down pretty simple. And yeah, that's how you commit time travel, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? So like, I almost made him New Jersey. I almost made him like a different type of Southern accent. I actually kind of almost used the Riggs voice at one point, but that was too much, I felt.
We wouldn't have been able to take it seriously.
Yeah, I think unfortunately that was just more of like the voice itself is a little outlandish.
Yeah.
And so like that felt kind of harder to follow. But I also wanted, the thing is, Riggs was also one of the first NPCs I ever created, and I knew that I was going to put Riggs in somewhere. And I wanted Riggs to be a very lovable character, whereas Hank, I kind of want people to not be certain if they like or hate him. I like having that kind of character because like I think that part of the whole point of this game and story is going to be at the end of it, what do people choose to do? Kind of almost what Graham was saying, but like, just because the apocalypse ends doesn't necessarily mean that threats will end. So will Hank just be on his own? Will people continue to fight, but without him now that, his part is like done or whatever, so it's like, I want there to sort of be this like idea of, can we trust the person who's sending us out,
Yeah.
Which also, I think is also kind of a trope sometimes in monster hunting things. There's frequently a character where you're like, I'm working with this person, but I'm keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Riggs very heavily influenced by, oh man, I forgot his name too. I'm gonna have to look it up in a second, but
by Colin M. Parker.
Yeah, no, but the voice actor who is in a lot of like older Disney movies, who is like always like a guy who drank like a lot of hooch, and was like, he was one of the dog detectives in Aristocats.
Like the Firefly from The Princess and the Frog.
Yes, and also I think a firefly or maybe some type of bug in Rescuers Down Under as well, right? It's this guy who's he has a Southern accent, but his voice was constantly cracking, and it was supposed to be like the idea of like he had too much moonshine kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it was almost like a hiccup in a way. Well, I don't know what you're gonna do, but you're gonna go down, and you're gonna, all right, buddy, you got it. And like I then made him just really nervous. Because I didn't want him to be like drunk on the job. So I was like, the voice crack is more of him being like, well, not really sure what to do now, so Riggs is that. Terry was just a meatball loving Lyft driver. A lot of other voices, a lot of other characters. But those are sort of the three main ones that I've voiced so far.
What about Buck, Alex?
So I was initially so when I was a kid, my parents liked to watch a lot of like NCS. So when I was thinking of this when I was trying to find a character and I was going through the things, like the different roles, the professional stood out because the first thing that hit me was, oh, Mark Harmon, Gibbs from NCIS.
My
Then I was
mom
thinking,
loves that show.
yeah. Then I was thinking, no, that's kind of lame. Let me think of someone a little cooler. What if I gave him an accent? Oh wait, no, Colin's already doing the Southern accent. That's the only voice I can do. And then I don't know, thinking about more of the supernatural stuff. So the show Fringe actually stuck out because that was a show, one of the few shows that I actually looked into a lot. Well, that and Warehouse 13, where it was like,
that show also ruled.
Yeah,
dog, yeah, love that show. Sorry,
and they had the national, like the at the end of the show, they had the national playing the song, and it was cool. But
now I see where the national comes from. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Vanderlag, Cry Baby Cry. It's all been forgiven. Why am I doing this? So there was just like this idea of someone who is doing all this weird shit as a job, and they have to like adjust to it and deal with it. Was, I guess, part of what. Well, and I guess putting myself into that situation, because I haven't really made a lot of characters, and thinking, okay, so if I was like been dealing with the supernatural shit as a job for 50 years, how would I be at the end of it? So
that's cool.
Yeah. And then for the name, I was just trying to find like a 4-letter power name. So like Duck, and then Duck kind of stuck in my head, but then I can't go with that.
Right.
I change a letter.
Yo, real talk though, I will always be jealous of Justin McElroy's ability to just nail a character name and aesthetic instantly. Graham, you can't put stuff in the chat because it pops up in the dang Twitch.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. No, you're fine.
That's the link, by the way.
Gotcha.
I just gotta. Oh God.
Where Graham watches anime?
No, I absolutely not. I hate anime. It was a mistake. Absolutely.
Anime was a mistake. Okay.
Is there a better place for me to put that though?
Was that?
If you guys care, that link there is literally aesthetically or visually how I interpreted Lucy.
You should put it in the Twitch. Put it in the Twitch channel chat.
Oh, he might not be able to because he's not an admin. But you know what I'll do though? When I release the episode, I'll copy that link over and I'll put it in like the description and stuff like that.
It'll be a random Imgur link.
So Mason wants you to slap that bad link up in there.
Well, I'll send it to you, Mason. So we're kind of getting close to the time here. So I actually wanted. I mean, here's the thing: we're probably still 2 years out from finishing this campaign, and the reason for that is we're bi-weekly. Oh, you have one more question? All right, Mason, give us your question before I ask mine.
I'll be right back.
Okay, Mason has one more question. So
I have a question for a bit, but we'll save it for the end.
Okay. Hang on. Have you ever had to utterly grind things to a halt or re-record?
There was something, we don't have to go into names, but there was an arc that we wanted to redo.
Yes. Okay. So, right. So, yes, to answer your question, there was, it's right. It's a yes. It's also kind of to your question, Mason. We had some stuff happen in an arc.
We don't have to go specific.
Yeah. Because I don't, it's going to seem like I'm being like really vague or really weird, but like basically there was just like, well, no, you know what? I feel like we can, because like it's not bad, right? It's just a matter of, so we've talked about this in the last Making Myth Takes. So we had in the initial cast 2 people who thought that they were going to be able to handle this and doing college at the same time. And it turned out that it was just a little too much at times. And there was no way to guarantee that we were going to only record episodes during like the summer for them kind of thing. So they had to back out, whether permanently or just for this campaign or whatever. But then it meant that we had an entire arc that had 2 characters that made one appearance and will never make another appearance. And so we'd actually kind of toyed around with the idea of potentially re-recording it, not to necessarily like diminish their works, but like, you know, we just knew that like it was going well. And I see that you just said, oh, you meant more for like someone made a choice that threw the narrative direction so far. But the thing is, like, in a way, that's sort of what this was, right? Like their choices in that sort of set up some stuff that we had to then think about. Well, now they're not going to be there to deal with like the fallout or to deal with the response or whatever you want to call it. So like that has been a reason why we've considered redoing it. As far as hard stop, I think that really the only time we've had to do that is something that we kind of addressed in the very beginning is sometimes, and this has happened to all of us, we have all at some point, I think, started to answer something or answer a question or do something that we would do, not necessarily that our characters would do. And we've had to stop and think about what the narrative is and like what, like what is it that like Lucy wants? Not what does Graham want? What does Lucy want? And like
That's
we've had to stop
hard.
and think about that,
Because whenever I'm playing like an RPG or anything, I'm always the lawful good, or not the lawful good,
Right.
the neutral good, like the gut moral good decision, and Lucy's not that.
Right. But to answer your question, like there's never been anything where I think actually, okay, no, you know what? There is actually one. Now I think about it, and this happened in Morgan's arc.
I know what you're gonna say.
Morgan had to stop everything for a brief moment because Max and Max's character started to make a choice that could have had serious repercussions. And so Morgan was like, all right, wait a minute now. Let's think about this. Let's think about this. Like, why would we not want to blow up the house? And it's because the victims were still in the house. So,
I was going to say to answer that question also, like when in this last arc, when Allie commanded Zeke to go to sleep.
Yes.
That took a long fucking time for you to decide whether or not that was going to work. And it was horrible. I don't know what was going on in your head, but I was freaking out because I didn't know if it was going to work or not. But it took a long time, and you edited out all that waiting.
I can actually answer that now because, like, even though we're not done with the arc, I think we're past that moment enough that I can actually respond to that, because that is something that I wanted to eventually address. So there are a lot of, every time that Allie tried to get Zeke to do something, I would always talk about how Zeke had to essentially kind of buffer and think on it, because the thing is that, even though he was weaker minded than your character, he was stronger than the average
bear.
Yeah, I was trying not to say it, but he really is stronger than your average bear, because at the end of the day, even though he's not a playable character, the book talks specifically about getting hunters to do something. And so I was kind of playing around a little bit with like the meta of the game and dealing with how do you treat these characters differently, because they are actually, they are hunters. They are like, they are what you are, but not necessarily good people. So there was a lot of like this idea of like, normally when you roll something and it's not a hunter, they can do it, like they will do it immediately. But when you're going against a hunter, it has to be a good enough reason, or or something like that. So a couple of times I had to stop and think and go, it isn't a playable character, but as someone who does deal with people like Allie, what would he be strong enough to fight that? So there was some interesting little moments like that. And also it's fun to watch the moments where, like, I don't know if it's in the recording still, but like I said something at one point or something started to happen and Morgan had her face covered and was like this. Sorry, it was like, I realized I'm covering my mouth entirely. Like I'm Bane. No, but she had her face covered and was like eyes wide open, was just like in shock. And because it was like so tense and like, what the hell is going to happen next? And I love seeing moments like that.
I am very animated when I play. I freak the fuck out about everything. I'm always just like, silently behind my microphone.
It's so good though, because it makes me go, okay, good. We're on the right track.
Yeah.
So you had a thing for a bit, Alex?
Yeah. So what happened to Buck?
Okay.
What do you mean? What happened?
I don't know. I was just told to do this thing, so I wrote it and I said, is this what you want? And Colin said yes. So I have no answers for you.
Well, you're fine. Well, so I was asking because I was hoping it'd be like, okay, that's the end of the stream. Bye, everybody.
I actually almost considered it, but the thing is that like, I do want to sort of give a teaser a little bit in a way. So the thing is that when we set up Myth Takes and we talked about the rotating cast, and we even said that the keeper can also be rotating, but the idea is that like to a certain extent that like I would work on the kind of the things that all tie into like the end game. And then other keepers can still have tie-ins to that. But just like basically just asking them to not make any crazy major choices because like it could change the end game, which has been technically written, like outlined, or like the arcs have been. But we talked about, is there anything that Morgan would need to include in the arc to tie it into the overall story? And I had something that was written down for the next arc that I would have Buck in. I was like, if Buck is in this one, the next time we see Buck might be a little while. That might be too late to introduce this. So, Morgan, you can do basically whatever you want. I just need you to, at some point near the end of the fight, Buck can't survive. And I was like,
you kept healing yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And I said, and even if it gets because here's the other thing, right? Monster choices, monster moves rather, for the book, like for the keeper, is they can go into a frenzy and they can also choose to like essentially hyper focus. So even though other people are attacking them, they can sometimes choose to go after one target if it's upset them enough. So I basically was like, Buck can't live through the end of the fight, but I want the post-credit scene to be Buck waking up. I was like, and you can word it any way you want.
Your face.
But Buck essentially is going to wake up and not remember anything. And that's because there's a larger, like, so every character that we've sat down with has had some sort of like, this is something that I would like to see, or, or, hey, these are the things that I'm working with. Any kind of major mystery that you can include me in, go for it. And Buck was one of the first thoughts that I had when writing stuff out and going, I know what I want to have happen between Buck and Hank to really test their relationship, because we really don't know what it is. And there's a lot of bit of like, how far does the trust go? Mm-hmm. So I can't fully tell you what all that means, but I can tell you that Buck doesn't remember it, but Alex does. And it's going to, and this was a thing where I did have to say to Alex, even before he recorded this arc, one of the first things I said to to Alex was,
who are you speaking to right now?
I know. Well, to both of you, but I said, I need you to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because
you or Hank?
Me specifically.
Okay.
I wanted you, Alex, to trust me.
I had to pull that out a few times too.
Yeah.
Alex, do you trust me?
Right. And it
no,
was
just go with it.
No.
It's going to seem crazy.
As your character's bleeding out, do you trust me?
Right. This is going to seem...
The monster like standing over, do you trust me?
But I promise that there is a what's the word for it? A payoff. There is a payoff, and it's going to be large, and it's going to be...
Yeah, you get to see Lucy in heaven.
No, but it's going to eventually lead to a larger conversation between Hank and Buck, and it's going to I think potentially change what Buck's personal end game is. Mm-hmm. And like it's going to leave us with a question that like I will give to Buck essentially, or to you, Alex, as Buck's player, and it will be like there's no wrong answer. You choose what you do, and I have to live with it, kind of thing, So I think there's going to be some good stuff there. Buck and Lucy buddy cop spinoff confirmed. Who knows? And so we're getting close to the end of 2 hours here. So I have one final question for y'all.
Sorry, Buck is the bad cop. Lucy is the worst cop.
Well, he's the bad cop with the heart of gold. He's like, I don't want to punch you. I'm going to. They're going to kill you.
We're going to be in this story for probably about 2 more years, because we have a few more arcs before we hit. I hate to keep using the term endgame since it was used for Avengers, but I mean, that's really like sometimes kind of all you can really call it. Like before we get to you know, like the end,
the finale.
like, yeah, I mean, it's the finale, but essentially what it is like, there's going to be, you know, in video games,
the Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah. Well, you know, like when you get to the end of like a video game and you get to that one scene where like you go to hit like enter a room or, you know, do start, you know, mission, and it gives you that little pop-up that says, are you sure this is your last chance to do side quests and stuff like that until the end of the game? But for us at the end of the game, there's no way to go back and play more. So like we are going, yeah, exactly. We are going to have a point of no return. So that's another reason why I've been sort of telling like Morgan and also Max is, you know, is working on something and being like, if y'all want to have another arc that you do stuff, you know, like this is like this, there will be a point in time in which like we won't be able to get to that. So like get it in before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so like there's, I think when we hit that point of no return, that's either 2 or 3 arcs to hit the end. But they should all be shorter, but essentially the idea is those arcs will, all to make sure that we see the full story from every character's aspect, essentially. Just so that way it's not like final arc and 10 of you don't get to be a part of it. Fuck off. See ya. Like that would be so shitty, you know? So it's like, we're going to make sure that we get to everybody, and have those final moments and what their reactions and what they do. But even though we're 2 years basically out from that, Myth Takes is going to continue past Monster of the Week.
Monster I already know what the answer is. You haven't even asked the question, but I already know what I'm going to say. Go on.
So my question for you is after probably doing a few one-shots for a little while, just to kind of, you know, have some easier edits for a little bit, what kind of, like for season 2, if you will, for campaign 2, what game do you hope that we look into and work through?
Jeopardy. Monsters and Other Childish Things. Monsters and Other Childish Things. I will never stop talking about that game.
Mason says Blades in the Dark, also a good game.
Ooh, Blades in the Dark. That's a very good game.
Or Morgan's. Yeah, Morgan's very good.
There's a podcast called The Drunk and the Ugly that does role-playing games, TTRPGs, and they have a lot of different ones that they do, but one of my favorite campaigns that they ever did was Monsters and Other Childish Things, and it's called Mrs. Frida's Home for... Oh, fuck, what was it? Just look up Mrs. Frida's on Drunk and the Ugly, and it's basically about all these kids that are in like a boarding home or whatever, and it's just really fucking good because it started out as like a one shot, and then they were like, hey, we really like these characters, let's keep going. And so then they kept doing it, and then it has like a rotating cast kind of like ours, and then eventually they were like, okay, we've got these story threads that we've been building up kind of randomly, let's tie it all together, and it comes to this very satisfying end. And it's just so fucking good. I think it's Mrs. Frida's Home for like Freakish and Unnatural Children or something like that. It's oh my God, it's such a good fucking podcast, and I want that in my life. I want to play that game. That's all. Anyway.
Yeah. Graham?
I don't know. Because so many of like the TTRPGs I've played in the past are like heavily like you need a board. You need to see like the board and what's going on. Because admittedly, I found a couple Star Wars related ones, like Balance of Power is great, but I've recently found a Clone Wars or like whatever role-playing game, and I'm like, how fun would it be to just play as like a squadron of clones during the Clone Wars? That would just be so much fun. I could have so much fun with that.
Mason says, Graham instantly thought of BattleTech.
BattleTech? I'm not familiar.
Hang on a second. There is one that I can't change this. I wanted to look something up because all of a sudden I'm forgetting the name of it, but there's a game that is also made by, no, that's not it either. Oh my gosh. There's a game by Evil Hat Productions. And they have a game that is like tech.
Oh, mech fighting game. Okay.
Yeah, no. Oh, sorry. Mason's is Mason's a mech fighting game?
Yeah. Interesting. Really? Okay. Oh, it sounds like some of the 40K tabletop RPGs that are a lot of fun, but the rules are all over the place.
I'm trying to look it up as fast as I can, but I can't seem to find it. But they have like kind of like a newer game that is like an outer space game that is about, basically it's kind of like their version of Star Wars, like a Star Wars type game. I feel like it's called like Tech. God, I can't.
Colin,
Yeah.
if I set up a one shot from Made RPG, will you allow the Scavengers Network to host that?
I'm sorry.
I'll play it.
Of what?
It's called Made RPG.
Like MAID?
Yes.
Go on.
Very concerned.
It's a role-playing game where you play as a maid and you score points based on how much you pander towards your whatever your
Having
your
worked
boss.
dutifully for this
It's super
Sonoji
anime
family for several
and
years,
very
you
trashy.
are
I
also
love
a
it.
shy albino
This-
princess who does odd jobs for the Yakuza and trains with the 3-section staff.
This is so
Your peer
far-
Maya is an outgoing young maid with freckles. A streak of
This is
green
Graham
in her
doing literal fan service, and I don't know.
It's so trashy. It is just utter trash.
That's how
All
I
right.
pitched Dream Daddy.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. It's complete
all right,
trash,
well,
but you can have fun with it.
All right, I will.
I'm down.
I
Graham,
will
I
allow
will-
it if you show me the outline to make sure that we're not getting. I mean, look, we cuss on this show, but
Yeah.
you know, we have like people's parents who listen to this show,
Wait, and they don't want to play
like
as
my
a dust?
like my mom. So like, you know,
Okay,
let's
well,
let's
that
try
might
and
that
Hi,
might be a
Colin's
bit-
mom.
let's try and keep it like somewhere in like the lower R rating.
Okay.
Okay. What about you, Alex? Have you mentioned one? I don't think.
No,
you
I haven't. So I first had a throwaway answer with checkers, but I like Morgan's idea. Like I haven't listened to the podcast and I don't know the game, but it sounds really cool. I guess I don't know. I guess this is tying into something completely me and me being entirely selfish. And a question that I wasn't asked. Like I wish I mean, there's still more time to do this. Like I wish I did more arcs, or like I wanted like do my own art, like lead an arc.
Mhm.
And I feel like I guess in the structure of Myth Takes, like I don't know if there's like a thread I could pull off of, or I'll have to talk to you about it, Colin. But I guess something where I feel like it wouldn't be difficult to do something like that, like maybe because I haven't done one with Myth Takes yet, I don't know like how difficult it would be to actually do that now. But I don't know if there'd be a story where it'd be easier to do, or like a game structure would be easier to punch into that to just like make an arc and make it happen.
Mhm.
But maybe that's just me not knowing like what it takes to make one for this series.
You know, okay, so here's something that we can do to like maybe kind of like help introduce you to that.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes out for anyone that's on the Scavengers Network if you would like to explore this option. What we can also always do is just sort of introduce you to the idea of how to make that work is we can set up like a time to do like a one shot, whether it's in Monster of the Week or if it's in another game, just to like get an inkling of like, because you know, writing a very small story can help get you an idea of what it's like to run an entire arc, but also to say how much writing do I have to do, how much prep do I have to do, you know, how much of this will be carried and changed sometimes by, you know, people's character choices. You know, and I think that that's a good way to also like kind of get almost the DM jitters out, because that's what I did before we started doing Myth Takes. I had never DM'd or anything, so like I did a little one shot with a couple folks, like that was just like, you know, an hour long game, but just like something to give me the experience of like sitting down with other people and saying, now I'm the narrator and I'm setting up a scene and you tell me the things that are happening, you know. And just sort of letting it happen naturally and exploring that. So, you know, like that, I think that's a good way to like dip your toes in. And then if you dip your toes in, you go, all right, yeah, I could do this for a full arc. And I could, you know, I've got some ideas on some stuff that I want to have happen, then we can do that. And if you, in the long run, find that you don't have anything for Monster of the Week, like I was saying, we're going to do a bunch of like one shots and like maybe mini campaign kind of things in between season 1 and season 2. So if you say, ooh, got an idea, doesn't work in Monster of the Week, but does work in Dungeon World or something, you know, like I got a great fantasy world based, story arc, then we'll do that. Like the part of the whole purpose of Myth Takes is to explore different things and work with people that we don't normally work with, which is very funny considering like I work with like you three probably the most out of anyone on the network. But in general though, it's so much fun watching, like for example, this arc having Graham, who has been with the Scavengers Network when we first started doing things like Family Game Night and Scavengers Play, sitting down with Morgan of Broads and the Bees, sitting down with Lindsay Nelson of Historical Hotties, and sitting down with Caitlin of Unnatural 20s, like just such, and then me, but like, whatever, who cares about me? But like seeing that like grouping is, oh, thank you, Alex, is like so great to watch because it's like totally different and yet same all at the same time. It's great. I don't know. I think we've got a good formula here. I think it just works.
To be fair, though, Alex, to kind of like quell your fears a little bit,
Yeah.
when I wrote mine, I basically just came up with a monster concept and I was like, hey, can I do this? And then Colin was like, yeah. And then I wrote the whole thing and told him I was ready. And then he just threw that one last thing at me like, oh, by the way, just put this in if you can.
Yes.
Whatever.
Right.
So just come up with a concept and write it and then it will happen and it'll be
Okay.
fine.
Cool.
That's, I have a, look, I am here to help people achieve their dreams and live their truth. It's why we're doing things like
Like the sponsor of today's episode, Raycon, and they have a new special for you.
Yeah, no,
it's Raid Shadow Legends.
What?
The
Raycon Shadow Legends, the new mobile game, but
this is gone too far. Okay, well, I think that's basically it at this point. We've hit 2 hours here. So why don't we, Graham, where can people find you?
Playing Made RPG. I found out that I have the PDF on my computer and I'm reading through it now.
Will you send it to me?
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Yeah,
I'll throw it
in the Google Drive.
Okay, perfect.
We can all get to that.
Yeah, I could waste a lot of time writing one of these.
No, for y'all though, go ahead and do it. Tachyon Squadron. That's what I was trying to find. Tachyon Squadron is like a Star Wars like space fighting like ship flying and stuff like that. Like real talk, I would love to do a sci-fi like full on sci-fi star space thing, but I also really kind of want to do Kids on Brooms. And I'm not even like a wizard fighting magic thing person, you know what I mean? But I'm like weirdly into it. So yeah, we'll make something happen. Sorry. So where do you finish saying where people can find you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, find me on Twitter. That's where I mainly do my shenanigans at GRRAHAMT, Graham T.
You also do a show, don't you?
You do.
Yeah, that's on Unlocked. That's fine. Don't worry about that.
Alex, where can people find you?
So my branding is kind of all over the place, but on Instagram, I'm French Alexander something. On Twitter, I'm French AT Music. I'm on Fields of Variations with a friend of mine, Grace Gannell, where we talk about music and we do weird things to it. And then I stream on Twitch on Fridays from 10 to midnight EST, doing music and other weird stuff. So.
I'm gonna say the best for last. So I can be found at Colin M. Parker, COLINMPARKER. And you can also find Scavengers Network at ScavengersNet. Don't forget to write to at Myth Takes Cast to talk about your how does his head fit? Hey, Mason, I'm saving the best for last, which is Morgan. The best for last is Morgan. I'm being kind, and you're taking a dump
I understood
on me.
it. I understood.
Good Lord. So yeah, you can find Myth Takes at Myth Takes Cast. Give us your fan theories, your thoughts, your questions, and everything like that. And you could end up having a character named after yourself, much like Jeff Riggs, who we heard from kind of earlier. Although Riggs doesn't sound like that, or Jeff Riggs doesn't sound like that at all. Jeff Riggs used to be the lead singer of a pop punk band from Virginia Beach, and they were very good and very fun.
But now does it sound like this?
Okay, it kind of sounds like this now that he's had a baby. There is now a Deputy Riggs, by the way. I want to point out there's a little baby Deputy Riggs. And so congratulations on that. 5 months, I think now, 5 months old.
Wow.
So that's where you can find me. Morgan, where can the good people of the internet find you?
I am on all social media at Morgan Spatola, which is Spatola. I do a show about sex and stuff with my friend Joy called The Broads and the Bees. We're currently on hiatus, so take this time to catch up on season 1 and half of season 2. I stream here on this channel on Saturday nights, 8:30 Eastern, Dream Daddy with Aaron, and we date dads. I also do a hit NaNoWriMo podcast called Wet Hot American Moon Juice. That releases every November, but also randomly throughout the year. What else do I do? Myth Takes,
Scavenger's Hunt.
And Scavenger's Hunt. I like how I always have to ask everyone that I'm on a thing with. I'm like, guys,
Right.
what do I do?
What do I do? And also you can find us like at least once, if not twice a month on Sundays, doing family game night, which is where we all get together and have a bunch of fun and do some fun games. So please be sure to join us. You can find our Twitch streaming schedule below, but we also tweet about it every time that we're going live. We have something almost every single day of the week at this point, actually. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tuesday is the only day where we don't have something right now.
Sam does trivia.
Oh, you're right. So we do. So Sam, we host Sam's stream for that. But yeah, so we actually have something on our Twitch channel 7 days a week. So drop on by, catch something. A lot of fun stuff. Chat's always great and very uplifting and very warm. So as we always say on Myth Takes,
don't
eat
any.
No, we need to go one word at a time. All right, start.
Oh, okay.
Morgan, you first.
Stop
eating
all
the
bugs
that
infect
our
minds.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. No, this is where the cliffhanger music would play, and one of us would say something.
They're in our minds.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Well, that's the problem about the bugs. They're in our minds." And then the music would play, the theme song. All right, goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Santa.
Bye. God damn it, Alex. The Scavengers Network.
Creator-driven,
community-focused,
treasured content.